Hey friends! Welcome to the Drug Prevention Power Hour, where we empower leaders in youth drug prevention. After creating a student-led movement hosting epic drug-free events across the nation, your host, Jake White, dedicated himself to making the prevention field more fun, impactful, and relevant for today's youth. So if you're in education, counseling, public health, prevention, or just a caring adult looking for strategies to protect your kids, we hope you subscribe and learn from every show. Coming to you from Jake White and his team at Vive 18, enjoy this episode of the Drug Prevention Power Hour.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Drug Prevention Power Hour. I'm your host, Jake White, and today I'm actually bringing you in the inside of one of our courses. We have this program where prevention leaders from across the US are learning how to lead youth prevention clubs, peer-led organizations. When you feel like, hey, I'm doing this all myself, I need to change. I need to start doing actual student-led clubs and events and empowering them to lead, because you know that that's the longevity of our impact. You know that students can do it better than us 99% of the time. And you're ready to stop doing everything yourself and start empowering the people around you to make a difference with you. I'm going to bring you in what I feel has been one of the most empowering lessons that we've created. And I did not do this by myself. There's an incredible coach out there called Dan Martell and a book called Buy Back Your Time. And so whenever I read something, I'm asking, how does this apply to the prevention field? How specifically does this apply to peer-led clubs or engaging youth in prevention and making it more fun and accessible? So today's lesson is about embracing your role as a coach, as a prevention coach, somebody who's not doing everything yourself, but who's actually empowering other people to do their best work. And so whether you're, leading a club or you're managing a team or you're the director of an entire organization, I promise you that today's episode is going to give you real tangible strategies that you could literally use today to make your life easier, to make you better at your job, and to empower the leaders around you to step up. So please enjoy this episode of the Drug Prevention Power Hour. Let's dive into your role as a coach, because if you're playing the game with the students, then you're not being a great adult guide or an advisor or a sponsor. The whole point of student-led prevention is that it's student-led. So let's look at actually, what does this specifically look like? Now, I remember having this conversation with Tomas recently because his son has developed a videography business where he follows sports teams, and he's getting to know the athletes and the coaches really, really well. And we had this dilemma, this question of like, how do coaches get the best out of their athletes? And how do they try to do it? Some of them, like if you watch this show called Ted Lasso, they're like getting to know their players. They're all about interpersonal relationships. There's no harsh language or anything like that. And if you watch it, the character is like the most lovable character ever. He dances with his athletes. He celebrates birthdays. He celebrates mistakes. And he's quick to forgive, quick to encourage. Then you have the athletes that are like barking at their team members. They're yelling, they're swearing because they're trying to pull out what they believe is the best performance out of their athlete. Now, I didn't grow up around that environment. I was not very competitive athletically, so I don't know the answer. But when it comes to prevention, we can see what a coach is supposed to be. And so I'm going to take us through it. And first, we just have to realize that it's their game, not ours. The students are the players and we're the coach. This means that their job is to come up with ideas, plan those ideas, implement them. And yes, it means that they're going to have failure opportunities and they're going to learn from them. They recruit students and they lead the group. If this sounds like things that you're doing, it means we're going to have to start relying on your players more instead of the coach performing on the court, okay? Your job needs to be overseeing the group, measuring, being accountable, right? You're measuring the accountability and holding students accountable to what they said they would do. You're in charge of safety, growth, and providing unique opportunities. Now, we've got other modules in the course on how exactly to do this, but think of yourself as, hey, I'm here to develop my players, my prevention players, and I'm going to do everything I can to help them grow. Now, we're going to go through two types of leaders. And I actually got this from a book that I read called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. And whenever I read a book, I'm thinking of you. I'm thinking of how does this apply to prevention and how can we use this in our field? And some of the coolest things I've learned have been from books that actually aren't about prevention. So check this out. In the book, Buy Back Your Time, they talk about transactional leaders. Now, trans means across or through, and action means to do or to perform. So transactional leadership is actually just about getting someone to do something that you want. And how you do that is you tell them exactly what to do, you check their work that they did it, and then you assign the next tasks. I don't know about you, that's exhausting. Like you didn't really have a team member. You just basically did it yourself anyway. And if you've had a boss who micromanaged you before, you remember how disheartening it was. You didn't feel valued. You knew they didn't trust you. They didn't think you were smart. You're definitely not smart enough to do your job by yourself. And you were probably looking for a way out. So as you can imagine, we do not want to lead transactionally because that means we are not empowering our team members. There's no growth or ownership taken by the students, and everything still relies on you if you're a transactional leader. So how do we do it correctly? We want to be transformational leaders. And to transform means to shape, or to form actually just means to shape something. And again, we're using this identity of the word or this taxonomy to show that this goes beyond telling students what to do about the action. It's about forming the actual person. It's shaping them as leaders. You're shaping their skills and their character. And this is what great coaches do. I don't know if you've watched sports, but I've started to see that some coaches that don't know how to coach, they're yelling from the sidelines. But the ones who have transformed their team, they're calm on the sidelines because they know they've taught their students, they've taught their leaders how to act during the game. And so they're very calm, knowing that, hey, I've developed their skills, their character, they know what to do. I'm going to let this play out. So we can do the same thing for prevention. What it looks like to be a transformational leader is instead of looking at the action, you're looking at the outcome. You share the goal with your student leaders and you let them use their skills and creativity to get there. You're there to help measure, hold them accountable with check-ins and milestones. And this is super important that it's on the agenda or it's on a consistent frequency. Is it a weekly check-in, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly? There's something on your calendar that says, hey, I gave you a goal. Now we're going to check in to see if you have any questions and see how you're doing against that goal, that outcome that we decided to do together. And then the third is to coach them. You're not taking over. You're teaching them how they can overcome challenges as they come up. Because you and I both know doing any worthwhile work, there's going to be challenges. And that's exactly why this stuff is going to be impactful and why they're going to become leaders. So here's where we're moving from this. I remember when I was in college and I had a first year class and it was biology. There was 270 students that were in the audience or in the classroom with me. And it's the first week of school. Everyone's, I'm assuming, nervous, just like me. And the teacher hands out a pretest. He says, hey, this is just for you to figure out what you know. It's not going to be a part of your grade. In fact, you're going to get 100% just for completing it, no matter what your score is. And so he hands out the test. And then he said, hey, if anybody needs pencils, first day of class, I've got some down here if you need some. So I start taking my test and I realize the guy next to me is not taking it at all. Like he just sat there, arms crossed, backpack on the floor, empty test, no movement. So I look over, I'm like, hey, you all right? He's like, yeah, I'm good. You're not taking your test. He's like, yeah, I didn't bring a pencil. And I was like, oh, okay, no worries. The teacher said that he brought a bunch of pencils. They're down there. So I'm like, oh, cool. He can go fix it now. But he said, no, that's okay. And I realized that this student was scared to get up and go grab a pencil. He was going to take a 0 on the very first assignment. So I thought, wow, that's ridiculous. I can go get a pencil, like even if he's not willing. So I gave him my pencil and I walked down, grabbed one. And up to this point, no one had moved when he said he had pencils down there. But as soon as I did, I saw 15, maybe 20 students get up out of their chairs and they followed down because I had, and they grabbed a pencil too. It was wild. And you know what? I learned a lesson that day. I learned that everyone was scared to be at college and that I didn't need to be scared because we're all in the same boat. I became more outgoing that day. I became more courageous to do the right thing because I figured, hey, other people are maybe feeling the same way and I don't need to be as insecure. We're all feeling it. And this is why this story is important. When I told this story on a podcast episode with Dr. Crystal Collier, she actually told me something important. She said, Jake, that day you had neurodevelopment. You learned lessons because you got up and did something. But the guy next to you didn't get that neurodevelopment because you saved him. Whoa, what a lesson. And of course, I was a student. I actually was a freshman. He was a sophomore. But I got the benefit of the development because I got up and did something. And so when it comes to our job, if I were to go back in time and think like a coach, I should not have got up and done it for him. I should have let him learn the lesson by failing the test or asking him a question so that he could realize he does want to get up and do that. Now, I wasn't a coach, so I'm not going to beat myself up about it. But the lesson sticks. And for us, it means this. We are all here to prepare our students for the future. So we can't stop them from failing. In fact, we need to help them fail. And so stop saving the day. That's actually training our students to rely on you. Every time you save the day, they're learning, great. If I need anything done or if I get uncomfortable, I'm just going to go to my advisor. It might feel great for you to feel needed, but you're not equipping them. Just like I was not equipping that new friend that I had made freshman year of college. The second thing is stop excusing your students when they mess up. If someone doesn't do their job, it needs to be addressed. And some of my biggest learning moments actually as a student and today is when my mentor told me that I screwed up. If I did everything perfectly or they just celebrated me, I mean, sure, that felt encouraging, but I didn't learn anything. I didn't get better. My best moments that shaped who I was is when someone lovingly pointed out a mistake that I made and said, hey, this is the impact of that mistake. It caused this to happen. And it did hurt, but I saw how I impacted the team. And it's because of the hurt or the emotion that I actually got better and I learned from it. And some of you are thinking like, no, I don't ever want to make a student feel bad. Listen, you cannot stop your students from feeling bad. You can't. But if you excuse them or you keep saving them, you're actually leading to more hurt down the road when you're not around. It's amazing that they have you in their corner right now because you can be a person who lovingly tells them, hey, I've got some news for you. It might be hard to hear, but I do it because I love you and I see the potential in you. So here's what I observed happen. And then when this happened, this is how it hurt the team, or this is what I have to do because of it. Here's the impact of it. What would you like to do differently next time? Okay? And you can't stop them from having emotions. Emotions are good. We learn from emotions. And then finally, don't change their work. Don't change their work. If you want your students to do a project and you end up, you change it because you think it should be better, you're basically saying, hey, nice try, but I don't really value what you did. Nice try. Thanks for putting in the time, but I had to redo it anyway, so your time was wasted. Your effort was wasted. That's not a student-led club. That's not being a coach. That's putting yourself back in the player. So these are the top mistakes that I see. And the last one is perfection. Here's what I need you to realize. Our opinions as adults, they're not as valuable as the student perspective. So for us to go in and judge their work is pretty self-centered. We need to learn how to expect progress, expect for them to do their best try instead of saying, hey, the outcome has to be incredible the first time. Fourth thing is trying to be perfect. And their imperfect work is actually better than our perfect work. The expectation for youth is that, hey, you're committed to the cause, you're here to learn, and you're trying to do good for your community. And they're already facing so much scrutiny online for not looking or sounding or performing a certain way. And our club needs to be an escape from that. So yes, we're going to hold them accountable to what they decide to do and celebrate when they do it, celebrate when they try. We're going to not sugarcoat it or say like everything they do is perfect because that's not the point. The point is they did it, they tried, they learned, they made a difference. And oftentimes when I think about my own perfectionism, I realize it's really self-centered. I'm like, oh, well, they did that, but I don't really like it, or it's not as good as the way I would do it, or name any sort of excuse. The reality is, when I reflect on that, I'm like, dang, how conceited am I to think that my view as somebody who's 10 or 15 years older than them is better than their view. Again, their imperfect work is better than my perfect work. This is the view that we have if we're trying to do real student-led prevention. And so here's how we can do transformational leadership, and what it actually looks like in your club is that we're teaching rather than telling. And how we do that is whenever a student asks you a question, ask them a question back. Avoid the nudge to be too helpful. We want them to realize that they're helpful, they're resourceful, and this puts the ownership on their plate and takes the time off of your plate. So for example, the student comes to you and says, hey, what do you think we should do? Your response might be, well, I don't know. How could you find that out? What would you do to find out what we should do next? What are you thinking right now? So you're answering questions with questions. Maybe next we need to, instead of lowering our expectation to where someone is currently, we actually need to increase our expectations so that they grow to meet that. Okay, so this is exactly how we transform students into leaders. We're forming them. And when anyone messes up, what this looks like is we're very calm, because it's normal to fail. That's what we're modeling. It's normal to fail. And maybe you can share a time when you failed and you learned a similar lesson. Then you can ask them, hey, what did you learn from this? What do you want to do to change the outcome next time or to grow from this? So this can all help you set these expectations and empower students to be their best selves as they develop as leaders. And instead of changing or critiquing their work, remind them of the goal and ask what they need to change in order to meet that goal. See what changes they come up with. Listen, they might surprise you with what they already know and how resourceful they're being. And honestly, that's the cool thing, is they're developing. This experience of finding out what needs to change is really, really powerful. So don't change their work, edit it with them so that they can problem solve and learn how you think. And so if you need to offer specific changes, plant them down next to you, take them through, hey, I think we need to edit this and say it this way or try it this way. Why do you think that I said we should do that? Have them think that through. And if they don't get it, okay, here, I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking. This is how, when this happens, we usually do this. Or this is what the science and data tells us. So now when I see a problem, I think of a solution like this. And they're learning because they're doing it right beside you, instead of you taking it home and changing everything. As you go through this editing process with students and you set high expectations, you're always reinforcing that challenges are a normal part of doing something amazing. Right? Anytime you offer feedback, hey, I'm so proud of you for making the changes, you're really showing that you have the leadership skills to make a huge difference. And finally, remember that this club should actually operate without you. So you are increasing their workload, or you're increasing their responsibility. And it can be slow, so you're coaching and they're growing into the role. So every week, I want you to ask yourself, how can I give a new part of my job to the students? This builds their confidence, leadership, and their self-efficacy. And the final note is expectations and love are one of the biggest parts that I would like surround this plan with, expectations and love. And this isn't just something that companies and youth groups are using. This is from families. This is aligned with the most effective parenting style for raising successful kids. Higher self-esteem, self-confidence, better emotional regulation, problem-solving skills, stronger academic and social performance, the ability to resist peer pressure, make responsible choices. These are all aligned in what we would call the authoritative style of parenting, which data shows is the most effective for raising successful kids. So how we do that is we create clear and firm boundaries. We hold them accountable. We support them, keep them safe, and we communicate. And that's both ways, right? We listen as well as share. And so remember, as we talked about this, some of these roles might feel like, dang, this is like giving them a real job. And it is. And you surround this job by your support, your expectations, and your love as their mentor. And listen, I know when you do this, the student is going to look back and say, my life was transformed by this one adult I had in my life. Like, they made a big difference in my life. I can confidently say that will be you if you're able to pull this off and prioritize all these tactics, leading with love, high expectation, and operating as their coach instead of just another player on their team. And as our club grows, here's how I want you to think. If you want your students to run the entire club without you next year, we can start the process right now. And I would call it the 1-1-3-1 leadership. If you want to be 1 year ahead without doing this, pick 3 leaders that you're going to personally mentor. And everything you do with them, you're modeling them to mentor one other person as well. So if you've got a president, a vice president, and a secretary of your club, something like that, you are personally mentoring them, and they are personally mentoring at least one other person. If you do this, it's going to transform the way that, honestly, your club leads, but then also your personal life, because you won't have to do everything yourself. You've developed processes, training, and systems that they can follow as a guide. And, one day when you retire or you pass off the club to somebody else, there is a guide for them to follow. And those students that you poured into, they're probably going to want to come back and lead the club too. Remember that sustainable leadership's modeled by you. So thanks for being in the field and keep up the great work. I hope you enjoyed that episode and it gave you something of value. And I want to leave you with some even more value. If you've ever wondered something like, hey, how can I get Vive 18 to work for me for like pennies on the dollar? What if I could have Vive 18 specifically work for me and my organization? I'm going to show you a way that you can actually do that. So if you're on our website, vive18.com, and you scroll down to the bottom, there's this tab that says online courses. And when you click on it, you'll see this page about our online course and community. And you'll see little glimpses of our content on how to master your meetings, how to get students to step up with accountability, with consistency, with their ideas and excitement. And more importantly, we develop programs for you. So if you click on this See Courses button, it'll actually bring you to a tab to see all the online courses. And this is the best deal that we have. So you can see there are some free courses like the Youth Launch Bootcamp on how to start a peer-led club. For college students, how to host sober parties. We also have some that coalitions use, but I want to highlight one that's the best deal. And that's this VIP Prevention Pro course and community. So we've got a handful of coalitions and communities and districts who use this, and they're saving 5 to 10 hours every single week of work. And it's only $97 a month, or if you pay for the whole year, it's like $900. It's insane. And it has every single course that we have offered. We throw it in here so you have access to everything. So if you liked this episode and you're like, hey, I want more stuff like this, go to our website, vive18.com, check out the online course page and see if there's one that works for you. Or if you're like, hey, I love all of this and I want the best deal possible. I want to meet monthly with Vive 18 staff to get them talking about my problems, developing solutions for me. Then this is where you want to go, and you want to find the VIP package. So with that said, y'all, I think you're incredible. You're doing this work. You're staying in the game. That's what's going to take to change this world. Those of us who are excited, supporting one another and getting these things done. So I'm wishing you the best, and I'll see you next Monday for another episode of the Drug Prevention Power Hour.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Drug Prevention Power Hour podcast. If you love the show, make sure to leave a review and share what you've learned. And if you need help reducing substance use among youth by educating and engaging students in prevention, visit vive18.com for more information, tools, and resources.